Hello everyone, welcome to today's edition of the Mango Monkey Show, where I will talk to you about the federal budget that just came out last night. In today's video, I will primarily be using ABC News, which is the website you see in front of you here, because they have a few different graphs that already talk about the winners and the losers from the federal budget. So let's discuss the winners and the losers from yesterday's federal budget for Australia. Australia is in the midst of the coronavirus crisis. It's one of the luckier countries because we don't have that many cases so far. But the impact on the national budget is still quite huge because the government has locked down many businesses. In fact, the severity of the lockdown arguably is greater than in many other countries around the world. So this budget is going to be really interesting for us, and we'll see how much of a budget deficit the Australian government has incurred. But let's start with the biggest winner from the federal budget. The biggest winner from the budget is the taxpayers, which is pretty much almost any Australian, including the non-citizens who are working here temporarily. So the government is bringing forward its second stage of tax cuts, which means millions of Australians will have more money in their wallets, potentially from the end of October. The government is planning on backdating the cuts to July this year, and to make up for the 4 months that have already passed, those refunds will be built into wages until the end of the financial year. So I had a bit of a hard time understanding this sentence, but basically what this means is that because in Australia, if you are working for another company, your income tax is deducted straight from your payslip. So there is something called a withholding tax. Let's say if your salary for this week is $1,000, you don't actually get $1,000 paid into your bank account. You probably only receive something like $800. So what this means is that because your employer has been withholding too much tax, then the extra withholding, the amount that they withheld too much, will be refunded to you over the next few months. It means people who earn between $45,000 and $90,000 will end up with an extra $1,080. It will benefit higher income earners the most, with people earning more than $90,000 taking home up to $2,565 extra. Okay, so how much exactly can you get from the tax cut from the federal budget? Let's have a look. On the ABC website, which I will link down below in the description, you will be able to see a calculator. So if you input your income here, for example, if you do $90,000, you'll see that starting from now, right now, today, you will be saving $1,080 per year. Next year will be the same as this year, so that's $0 extra. And from the financial year starting on the 1st of July 2024, you will save another $1,125. So in total, you'll be saving roughly around $2,000. So that's all these things combined. If your income is around $120,000, then you will be saving $2,400 this year, another approximately $2,000 next year onwards, and another $4,000 from the year 2024. So altogether, that's a saving of around $8,000. Let's look at the second winner from yesterday's federal budget. So in here, you'll see a section on construction. Most of the stuff here you probably already know before. They are not specifically brand new due to the budget, but one of them is the home builder scheme. The home builder scheme is where the government will give you a $25,000 grant if you purchase a block of land and build on it, and the value of the land and the construction contract is up to $750,000. You can also use it for renovation, although it has to be quite a substantial renovation. What's new yesterday is that the government is investing huge amounts into a lot of infrastructure projects, so that's $14 billion. About half of it is just bringing forward what's already planned, so it's not exactly new. So $7.5 billion is just basically bringing forward the spending on road and rail projects that they have already announced before. Now, what is new this week is the extra support for first-time buyers. So let's click on this article here. You may have heard of the First Home Loan Deposit Scheme, which is where first home buyers can get a loan from the government and they only need to put in 5% deposit. Normally, if you do that, you need to pay a lender's mortgage insurance, which for the typical scenario is around 3% of the property purchase price. So if the property purchase price is 500 grand, the insurance is around $15,000. So this saves a lot of money for first home buyers. It saves on average $15,000. In fact, in Sydney, a lot of homes are more than 500 grand. So it can easily save more than $20,000. Traditionally, the government is releasing 10,000 spots in this scheme on the 1st of July each year. And normally within a few months, all these spots have been used up by the first home buyers who want to get into the market. Yesterday, the government announced another 10,000 places. On top of that, they also announced a higher price cap. It used to be that the maximum price was $700,000. So if you buy a new home in Sydney, really you don't have too many choices because $700,000 cannot get you a decent property. Now the price cap in Sydney will be $950,000. But the difference this time is that the property has to be brand new. So it's either a newly built property, so someone else has built the property for you, it's brand new, never ever sold to anyone, or you can buy the land and build the property yourself. Let's go back. Businesses are huge winners from yesterday's federal budget. So the main benefit for businesses is that they can write off, they can depreciate pretty much anything they purchase without a limit. So previously there's a limit of $150,000. Now they're saying there's no limit, so they can buy anything and claim a tax deduction on the full purchase price. And also more businesses will qualify. Previously only small businesses will qualify. 99% of businesses will qualify under the scheme. For everyday Australians, a lot of the times the biggest purchase they make under their business is their car. So a lot of people use the car for business and they want to know whether they can claim a car as a business expense, whether they can claim a BMW as a business expense. So normally, if you try to depreciate a car, there is a depreciation limit. It's around $59,000. The exact amount is $59,136. It is unclear whether the same limit will apply. However, I found a website on the internet that suggests that it will still apply. See, if you go to this website here, they expect that passenger cars will continue to be subject to the depreciation limit. What assets qualify? Firstly, you must purchase the asset after 7 October 2020. It must be installed and ready for use by 30th of June 2022. The second huge benefit for businesses is that they can now claim any losses against previous year's income. Traditionally in Australia, if you make a loss on your business, you can only claim a tax deduction against future income or income in the same year. So if, let's say last year you made a huge amount of money, you will need to pay tax on last year's profit. And then if this year you make a huge loss, then you have to wait until you get more profit before you can claim the tax deduction. But in recognition of the coronavirus pandemic, the Australian government has said that you will be able to claim your losses against last year's income. So if you have not done your tax return, that means you most likely will not need to pay income tax this year for last year. If you have already done it, then you can apply to have a refund. This can be huge, guys. So imagine, let's say your profit last year was 100 grand. A typical Australian company income tax is around 30%. So the tax for last year would have been around $30,000. So this is like you're getting $30,000 of refund. Any losses incurred up to June 2022, that's a couple of years from now, can be offset against prior profits made in the last 2 years to the 2019 financial year. So any losses you incurred in the 2020 financial year that just went by can be offset against your profit in the 2019 financial year. Regional businesses will get some benefits. Let's look at the next winner is young people. So This is huge, guys. The government has unveiled a JobMaker Hiring Credit. This hiring credit will give employers $200 a week to hire anyone between the age of 16 and 30. They'll get $100 a week for any worker aged 30 to 35. Now, the employer has to be on JobSeeker or use allowance or something else. There's another website you can go into if you want to know the details. So this is not any employee. So the idea is that you must be helping those jobless people to obtain a job. Now, the employee must be given at least 20 hours work a week. Any business will be eligible. Doesn't matter whether you are experiencing any impact from the coronavirus pandemic or not. This scheme is expected to create $450,000 jobs. It's available for up to a year. By the way, for you to get JobSeeker, normally you have to be Australian citizen, or I think permanent resident might be okay as well. So if you have an employee who is an international student, you wouldn't be able to get this benefit. There's a bit of support for tourism operators and some benefits for older Australian and carers. They'll receive 2 cash payments of $250, the first one in December and the second one in March. Mental health, this is big, guys. So a lot of you may be having a bit of a mental health issue, and the government has recognized this, and they are offering you some support. They're doubling the number of Medicare-funded psychological services. Now, apart from what I've mentioned before, there's also another change in the budget that will benefit a number of you, and that's to do with granny flats. So at the moment, if you build a granny flat, if you do everything properly, then when you sell the granny flat, you have to pay capital gains tax because you are not living in the granny flat. So you have to break down your house into 2 different parts. One is the house that you live in, the other one is the granny flat that somebody else lives in. But from 1st of July next year, building a granny flat for an elderly relative will be cheaper and not attract capital gains tax. Alright, so let's talk about the losers from the federal budget. The budget deficit is predicted to hit $213 billion, and this is for a country who was projecting a budget surplus just before the coronavirus. Migration rate, it's expected to be negative. The government is forecasting our net overseas migration to fall from around 154,000 to minus 72,000 by the end of this financial year. In the budget, it's assumed that there will be a gradual return of international students and permanent migrants in the later part of 2021 as travel begins to resume. Remember, guys, the border is not expected to open until the later part of 2021. Alright, so that's the end of today's episode of the Mango Monkey Show. I make a ton of personal finance videos to help you guys learn more about money, about how to invest, and how to get wealthy. If you want to achieve financial independence, please do subscribe for more videos around this topic. Now, some ideas, guys, for you about what to do with your tax cards. This is not financial advice, so I'm not a financial advisor. This is just basically me saying what I think you can do based on what I saw on the internet. So today I saw a website here, founder.com.au. They are telling us what we can potentially do with our tax cards. If you are like me, you don't like to shop, you don't want to spend too much money because you're trying to achieve financial independence later on in your life, then there are some ideas for you. So one is you can make extra repayment on your home loan while interest rate is low, because by paying extra, you will reduce the loan balance, and that means you will reduce the effect of compounding of the interest rate on your home loan. So even though you only pay extra $1,000 today, the savings that you will have, the impact that you will make will be a lot more than $1,000. Because your home loan is a 30-year commitment. So if you reduce your loan amount by $1,000 today, the repayment that you have to make over the next 30 years will be much, much bigger than $1,000. It will be a lot more than double, most likely. Or if you have an offset account, you can put the money into an offset account, which is basically going to do the same thing, because the bank calculates interest based on the net balance. Open a high interest savings account or a term deposit. I personally use UBank. I'm not sponsored by UBank and I'm not associated with them at all, but I found them to be quite convenient to use. They offer a pretty good long-term high interest savings account. It's not a honeymoon rate or something like that, so you get consistently high interest rate. And they have a sweep feature where if you have 2 bank accounts, one is the savings account earning higher interest, the other one is the transaction account that has a lower interest. and you have a direct debit against the transaction account, and there's not enough money in the transaction account, they will be able to automatically sweep the balance from the savings account. Buy some shares or an index fund. I will talk to you about some apps, some platforms that you can use to invest in the share market with maybe as little as $1, because the fee is very small. Because these days there are some platforms that allow you to invest with a very small amount of fee. 10 or 15 years ago when I started investing, I had to pay around $20 to buy shares. So that means if I only have $1,000, that's actually a big percentage. That's around 2% of the amount that I put in. But now with investing platforms like Raise or Spaceship, you can get started with a much smaller amount. Last suggestion here is to top up your superannuation by making an extra one-off contribution. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful or helpful for you, then please do subscribe and like this video. It will help with the YouTube algorithm, and it will help me to start monetizing my channel as well. Thank you guys, have a lovely day.